Today we're going to be going over the 3 rules of 3 when shooting video. These are rules or guidelines that I've kind of put together that I follow when I am behind the camera. These are always running through my head and they always help put me further ahead and more prepared when I'm actually pressing record on the camera. The first rule is wide, medium, tight. This may sound really simple, but when you're actively shooting a subject, really any kind of a situation when shooting video, it's important to get those 3 different aspects, those 3 different, you could say focal lengths, you could shoot them on different focal lengths, you could do 85, 35, 24, or even wider, or you could shoot it all in the same length and just move with your feet. Just as long as you are getting different looks of your subject. We've all seen the videos and we've all probably made the videos where we didn't get these 3 aspects. We didn't get a wide, medium, tight, and we got all mediums, or we got all tights. Honestly, that makes for a boring video, a boring edit. When you get these 3, it changes the game. Here's a good example of a bad job of doing this. A couple years ago, I was out on a ranch in Colorado and I had rented actually the lens, this lens right here. We were filming some other things, but I also was testing out that lens for personal reasons. And when I had it on there, I shot a lot of the same look. This footage is really interesting. What they're doing is really cool. They're cooking outside over a fire, and then they're eating outside on some plains on the foothills of some mountains. But what would have made it better, as you could tell, or in my opinion, is some much more tight shots and even medium shots of everything that was going on. I mostly did just get the wides, and the tights would have helped a whole lot, in my opinion. One situation where I found this rule or guideline really helpful is when I'm shooting an unscripted event or a wedding, which is scripted, but it's just very helpful to be able to remember to get wide and tight and medium shots. Now the next rule really bleeds into the first one, and I'm not just trying to lengthen this video or anything like that, but when I put them up next to each other in my head, they are different and they make me think differently when I am going through them. So this next rule is basically how to shoot a scene, and that is to get 3 different looks, whether that be different angles, different directions, different aspects, different viewpoints, to differentiate my shots, to tell a micro story in a scene. I know someone else has said this, and I'm sorry, I'm probably stealing it from someone, but when you're shooting a scene, you're basically shooting a mini story inside your story. So if something is happening and occurring, it's good to get at least 3 shots of what is going on. And now this is where it could somewhat bleed into the first rule, but let me explain. When something is going on, let's say when I was filming my brother fly fishing in Montana, it was really good to get details of the hands, setting up the fly rod, working the reel, and then it was good to back up to see him start to cast. And then it was even better to go back even further and to get the mountains in the background, the beautiful landscape behind him, and then also see him as he is working a cast into the water. And this is where you may say, yeah, it's the same thing, wide, medium, tight. Well, if it is close to the same thing, that's okay, because when you stack these rules on top of each other, they're complementary. After I get my tight shot, I may step back and get my medium shot and then get a different aspect. Shoot down low, shoot up. And then you back up or change lenses for a wider look. There's really a lot of different options. Or think of it as a sequence. So at the preparation, use a tight, use an 85, use a 50, and then get in close, get details of hands working. Then get your medium, get your 35, back up a little bit, shoot lower, shoot up at your subject to where it has a completely different look, or shoot over his shoulder and shoot something from your subject's perspective. Get a different viewpoint. If my brother's fishing, you could go out in the water and have him cast towards you. And then last, as you're wrapping up, show the landscape behind him, show the bigger setting. As he's putting it up, get him walking out of the water, get him going to set up stuff, put it back in the car. Shoot a scene like you're shooting a story. even if it's just a micro story inside of a bigger one. Now the third rule, let's just say it's optional. It's something that I try to get in my shots, but it's honestly just not possible every single time. And that is the rule of foreground, middle ground, and background. I don't know about you, but an image, photo, or video is just so pleasing to me when there is a clear foreground, middle ground, and background. A lot of times the middle ground is your subject, and then you have something that's causing your frame to be dirty in the forefront, and then you have your background. This cannot be attained in every shot, I know that, but it's good just to have in the back of my mind that if I can get a foreground, a middle ground, and a background clearly, then I'm gonna try to get it. I don't know, it just kind of gives your shots an extra edge. And it's a really cool and pleasing technique to most. Like I said, it's not attainable always, because sometimes you don't want that. You want your attention clearly on the subject. To go back to our footage from earlier, from the ranch and the meal out in the plains, there are a few shots here that were just beautiful in my opinion, with a clear foreground, middle ground, and background. The background was so easy in these shots because there's a huge mountain range behind everything going on. And then the foreground, either there's a bridge, part of a bridge in the foreground, or grass in the front, moving around. This technique is something that you don't need to just stress about. I would stress about the other two rules firsthand. This one is just like icing on a cake, that if you can nail down the other two rules first and then start applying this to your shots, then you're just gonna keep leveling up. When you can figure out how to frame your shots and get something in the foreground, you're automatically gonna achieve this every single time in your shots. So there you have it. That's what goes through my head when I am actively shooting, setting up for a shot, when I'm behind a camera. These are the rules that help me get the looks that I want, help me feel accomplished at the end of a shoot. It makes me feel like I got everything I needed. I hope you found it helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. If you have anything like this that you do when you're behind a camera or you're prepping for a shoot, let me know. I'd love to know. I'm always trying to learn something new, something that will help me in this craft. So I appreciate you. Thanks for watching this. Have a good one.